All right, so the purpose of this video is just to try to give a brief overview of something that is commonly called just schematics, or how to draw schematics is something we want to do. So if we start out with some kind of circuit here, and we can say, all right, well, this is great. We drew this. It would be really time consuming, and at a very, very basic level, um, this has a couple cells on it. It's got 3 lights in parallel, and then we have a switch. So if I take this here and I think about it would look like that, there is another way of showing it in the form of schematic, and that's what I'm showing right here. So this, I should clarify, this part right here, this is a different thing. This is not actually what we're talking about right now. But this part, this diagram right here, is exactly the same as what we would see over here on this side. So we're going to minimize that. You can of course see lights are commonly drawn as resistors. There are symbols for a lot of different things, but for the purpose of this class, we'll just think of lights as resistors because they certainly are. You'll see the switch here, and this is the batteries. So I'm going to make this full screen, and I'll erase my marks here. So what we need to make sure to have in our notes, and by the way, you don't actually have to write power source. This thing right here is the power source. And so when you draw this item right here, when you draw this, you're saying this is the power source, and this is the positive side, and this is the negative side. So you don't actually have to show, I'll just show, you actually don't have to show those. You don't have to show that. I'm just putting it here as a labeling. So this shows power supply. The long side is positive, the short side is negative, and a long and a short represents one cell, like you would see right here, one. So since I had two cells, sometimes you call them batteries, 2 batteries, really more than one is a battery, but 2 of those is represented by that. The switches, I think, are pretty obvious. This is a switch. I always show them open. Again, you actually don't have to label it as a switch. If you draw it, we all know that it's a switch, so the switch is good. Resistors are drawn as squiggly lines like this. And again, you don't actually have to write resistor. If you draw that, we know that you've got a resistor. One thing that's not on this one, but is worth knowing about, is these wires here. There's an implication that electrons can go here, or they can keep going this way. And these wires are all connected. We can see that down here. We can see these wires are connected. If we happen to have a situation where wires weren't connected and electricity couldn't travel from one to the other like this, electrons can't get from one wire to the other, that has a special way to draw it on a schematic. And what that would look like is, that's what we're showing down here with this. And the way you do it is you draw it and then you draw a little bump over it. I kind of think of it as an overpass. These are kind of like 3-way, 4-way intersections. This is an overpass. Thank you. In case you were trying to keep track of, there were 5 things you were trying to show. We're trying to show wires in a schematic. They're just a straight line. We're trying to show resistors. They're a squiggly line like this, normally 3 on each side. We're trying to show switches. That looks like that. And then power supplies. And then our final thing is if wires aren't connected. We would show it like that. And again, if you drew that, you don't actually have to write that. The idea is that this means wires aren't connected. Thank you. And I should also note that there are, I'll show you here, a gazillion different schematics. You don't need these in your notes, but if you start looking at, when we get further into electronics, and not outside the scope of this class, there are a lot of different schematics that can be shown here. I saw one that was kind of maybe easy for us to digest in terms of we thinking about this shows our basic toggle switch. Well, here could be a little bit more complicated switch, a push button switch. But for the purpose of this class, you'll just do those 5 things I described. Thank you. Hope you have a great day.